I had met Emily in college. She was beautiful, with fiery red hair and piercing green eyes that seemed to captivate everyone around her. The moment I first laid eyes on her, I knew I wanted her in my life. We started dating, and for the first few months, everything was perfect. It was as if we were in a fairy tale. But like all fairy tales, there were dark secrets hidden beneath the surface. Emily had a troubled past. She was an only child, raised by a loving but overprotective mother who had lost her husband, Emily's father, in a tragic accident when Emily was just a toddler. Grieving and struggling to cope with the loss, her mother had become overly attached to Emily, smothering her with affection and attention. Growing up, Emily had yearned for freedom and independence. She rebelled against her mother's control, acting out and pushing the boundaries, desperate to prove herself. It was this need for independence and control that eventually led her to me. As we grew closer, Emily began to change. She became possessive, jealous, and even cruel at times. She would often accuse me of cheating, and whenever I tried to talk to her about it, she would only become more volatile. It wasn't long before the relationship turned toxic. I knew I had to end it, but breaking up with Emily was easier said than done. She would break down in tears, begging me not to leave her, promising that she would change. But she never did. One day, I finally mustered the courage to end things for good. I told Emily that we were done and that she needed to seek help for her issues. She didn't take it well. She cried, screamed, and even threatened me. But I stood my ground. In the weeks that followed, Emily's behavior grew more and more erratic. She would call me at all hours of the night, leaving voicemails of her sobbing and begging for me to take her back. She would show up at my work, causing scenes in front of my colleagues, and she would send me hundreds of texts, each more disturbing than the last. One evening, as I was leaving my apartment, I found a small, tattered box on my doorstep. Inside was a dead rat, its body mutilated beyond recognition. A note accompanied the gruesome gift. "You'll regret leaving me." That was when I decided to move. I found a new apartment on the other side of town, changed my number, and hoped that would be the end of it. For a while, it seemed like it was. The calls stopped, and Emily seemed to have vanished from my life. But one night, as I was lying in bed, I heard a noise outside my window. I brushed it off as the wind, but the sound persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Reluctantly, I got up and walked to the window. As I pulled back the curtains, I saw her standing there, her eyes wide and manic. "Emily." "Let me in," she whispered, her voice barely audible through the glass. My heart raced as I stepped back from the window, my body trembling. She shouldn't have been able to find me. I had done everything I could to make sure she wouldn't. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I just want to talk," she said, her voice sweet and innocent, so different from the monster she had become. Despite the fear gnawing at the pit of my stomach, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. She was clearly unwell, and in that moment, I wondered if I had done enough to help her. Against my better judgment, I opened the door and let her in. Emily stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room, taking in every detail of my new life. She looked different, disheveled and unkempt, her once beautiful hair now a tangled mess. We sat down in the living room, the silence heavy between us. I could see the turmoil in her eyes, the desperation to regain control of her life, and the crippling fear of being abandoned again. "Emily, you need help," I said softly, trying to reach out to the person I had once loved. "You can't keep living like this. It's not healthy." Her eyes welled up with tears, and for a moment, I thought I had gotten through to her. But then something in her expression shifted, and a cold, dangerous glint appeared in her eyes. "You're right," she said, her voice eerily calm. "But I can't do it alone. I need you." "Emily, I can't be the one to help you," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You need to see a professional, someone who can really help you work through your issues." She shook her head, her eyes never leaving mine. No, it has to be you. You're the only one who understands me, the only one who ever truly cared about me. You can't leave me, not like my father did. Her words sent a chill down my spine. I realized then that Emily was far more broken than I had ever imagined. And as much as I wanted to help her, I knew that getting involved again would only put us both in danger. Emily, I'm sorry, but I can't do that, I said firmly, my heart aching with the weight of my words. You need to find help, but it can't be from me. We're not good for each other. Her face contorted with rage and she lunged at me, her hands clawing at my throat. I struggled to push her off, my vision blurring as panic set in. Just as I felt myself losing consciousness, I managed to land a blow to her side, forcing her to release her grip. Gasping for air, I scrambled to my feet and ran to the door, my heart pounding in my chest. As I flung the door open, I could hear Emily's anguished screams echoing through the apartment. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. All I could do was run, leaving behind the woman I had once loved and the darkness that had consumed her. I never saw Emily again. I moved even further away, changed my name, and started a new life. But the memory of her and the terror of that night will always haunt me. In the end, I learned that some people carry demons too powerful for anyone else to save them from. And the best thing you can do, for both of you, is to let go and walk away.